Good morning. Good morning. I'm happy that every one of you are here today. I look around and see who you are. I see you face to face, eye to eye, and heart to heart. Yes? Yes. We're very blessed to be here and to have the freedom to come, the freedom of choice. And so we are muting you out there in Zoom land, and we'll put you back on again soon. And I am known as Shirley Angel Love, and I'll be kind of helping a little bit to guide us in our service today. We do have a few announcements. Early Birds meets Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Zoom, and some come and are in the fellowship room too. So we're beginning a new book, A Mini Course for Life by Gerald Jompolsky, and that's a very good book for us to start anew and to practice some of the lessons and the practices. And our upcoming speakers, I think just this coming week, we will be watching a video together. And thank you, Judy, for choosing that. And it is How to Love and Be Loved. That's going to be wonderful. I already know it. And then on Thursday evening, we have a group of us that meet, and everyone is welcome. And we're watching a video by Greg Braden called Missing Links. And we're learning a lot about how we got here, and I suspect how we're going, and how we're being, And last but not least, we do have a prayer team that remains available to serve you. And they gather on Tuesday evenings at 4:15 to pray with you your prayer requests and the prayer requests of those that come by mail, by telephone, and by even those in the back room there in that prayer box. We do know that prayer works. Each of us have had many answers to prayer, haven't we? And so during this time at 4:15, it would be good for you to have a little quiet space for yourself where you can join in prayer and feel that presence of, group. The group energy, isn't it? It's wonderful. All right. And so right now is our time for our invocation. So you can close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And you can have both feet on the floor if that's comfortable for you. And oh, great Spirit, we're so honored for your presence. Always. You are with us, in us, around us, always. We're never alone. And so I call forth that conscious awareness of your presence right here, right now. and the presence of ascended masters, of angels, of archangels, the whole company of heaven. I'm asking and acknowledging your presence right here, right now. If we had eyes to see, we would see that this room and the places of you connecting by Zoom would be crowded with all of this wonderful, beautiful, powerful spirit that is with us. We give thanks for this day. We give thanks for our privilege to gather together. We give thanks that the most wonderful, infinite power of love is here, is going from this place out into the world, to every man, woman, and child. We call forth that conscious awareness of that presence. And in our time together here today, we are so blessed with the music, with the message, and with the presence of every one of you. I release this word knowing it's so, and it's far beyond anything I could ever ask or even think of. And we say together, and so it is. Wonderful. All right. So I think it's maybe time for our music. Okay, we're going to have our song of joy. And if you are comfortable to stand up and sing together, that'll be wonderful. Thank you. We all sound so good together. All right, and so now it's time for us to share together our vision and our mission and our affirmation. And maybe you can see it here. If not, you have this little piece of paper here that tells you. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmation: As we celebrate independence this month, I affirm that I am free from all bondage imposed by my limited thinking. I now know that I am infused with unlimited possibility and that the divine supports me in all that I attempt, and so it is. Wow, that's a wonderful affirmation. And we're honored now to have you, Miss Melody Burns. So thankful to have you here.
I had to get up during the Song of Joy because the song I'm going to do is called Make a Joyful Noise. Thought it was me and you had intuited what I was doing. This is a song by Bob Burns. Didn't I not turn it on? I did. Woohoo! Thank you for the reminder, because I often forget, as you know. Make a joyful noise unto the world. Lift your voices in praise. Make a joyful noise unto the world. These are the better days. Peace is coming to our planet very soon. It starts with me and you and this joyful tune. Make a joyful noise into the world. Lift your voices in praise. Come along and sing with us. The song we sing is of peace. Come along and sing with us. The song we sing is of love. Love is what will heal the world. Let love's pure light be revealed. Come along and sing with us. The song we sing is of love. Make a joyful noise into the world. Lift your voices in praise. Make a joyful noise into the world. Let's have our consciousness raised. We'll sing our songs of love and peace. We'll let all fears be released. Make a joyful noise into the world. Lift your voices in praise.
That was wonderful, wonderful. And thank you, Bob, from our hearts for writing that. And you did such a wonderful job in ministering through it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it just gets gooder and gooder, doesn't it? Okay, let's see here. I think maybe it's time for me to do the reading. This is the book that we are now doing in Early Birds. And I'm going to be reading to you today from page 51, called Forgiveness. Holding on to unforgiving thoughts and attitudes is the biggest block to experiencing love in our life and being a vehicle for spreading love to others. There is no healing in anger. There's no joining in judgment. And there is no happiness in remaining a victim. Scientific evidence now shows that grievances, grudges, and other attachments to anger are detrimental not only to our mental health, but to our physical health as well. Anger is a toxin capable of affecting every organ in our body. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we condone destructive behavior or that we deny what happened. And it certainly doesn't mean that people are not responsible for their actions. Rather, forgiveness is an eternal experience that no set of external forms into which it must fit. It is the gift we give ourselves, and it frees us from a self-made prison. Forgiving someone is like freeing them from prison, only to discover that the real prisoner was you. Once we have forgiven, we can then go inside and ask what it is that we should think, say, or do about the person or situation. Forgiveness brings us to the place of unconditional love. Unconditional love does not mean supporting another's insane behavior. Rather, it's the place where we can make decisions that are truly based on love instead of fear. And one last thing. One of the keys to forgiveness is to believe that everything another person has done or that we have done is forgivable. That's good news, isn't it? Another key is to have the willingness to forgive and to see the tremendous value that forgiveness has for us as well as for others. Forgiveness is the way we free ourselves from mind-clouding judgments in order to make decisions based on love. Forgiveness truly is the key to happiness. And so now it's my privilege and honor to have Dr. Edward as our speaker this morning. We bless him. He is such a blessing to our community and leads us and loves us in deep ways. Will you greet him?
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Howdy out there in Zoom land. We appreciate your being here, and as it's been said before, those of you who are joining us through the archives on our website, we appreciate that as well, because the communion and the community of spirit knows no time or place. So those of you from the future are here right now as well. When I first started thinking about my talk today, what occurred to me is that it kind of was relating to the old expression that we use, change your thinking, change your life. Yeah, Judy, I know, and I was going to add that, but so there's going to be a test on that. Judy's third law when she speaks next Sunday. But anyway, I thought, change your thinking, change your life, change your thinking, change your life. It is just worn out. What does it even mean? I mean, we use it all the time in our philosophy, but what I want to do is maybe give some specifics to it. Or shall we say a practical approach to change your thinking, change your life. And again, I didn't want to use Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life as the title. And as I started going through the process of putting this together, what I ultimately ended up with was Choose Your Thinking, Change Your Life. So anyway, I want to start with a metaphysical chart. And you all know the Science of Mind book. And in the back we have these physical charts, or metaphysical charts. They're physical as well. And they're divided into the circle, divided into three regions, the upper, the middle, and the lower region. And there's no reason for me to put this on the overhead for you to see it better, because even if you can see it better, you probably can't understand it any better, because I know it's difficult for me to understand it as well. So the top layer is typically called the spiritual, and this is where it gets a little fuzzy. The spiritual, the intellectual, the purpose, and decision. And then you look at, there's, 24 words for all these. And then the middle layer is the soul, the subconscious, the subjective mind, or unformed matter. And then at the bottom is the particularization, or the form, or the matter, or the body, or the effect. I thought, which one of these 24 words in the top really kind of flows through the middle section to the bottom? It's like, I don't know. You can study it for a long time, and it's kind of like, I don't know. So I started thinking about some of those, and I chose a couple of triads of words. The first in the upper is the idea, and the center, the subjective mind, the activation, and then the lower is the result. That's almost simple. Or, and make it a little more active, you say visualize, you energize, and then you manifest. Now, I'm beginning to understand it as well. So if we think about it, we visualize it, or we think the thought, we energize it with energy. Sometimes it can be thought of as emotional energy, and then the result is manifested. Ernest Holmes calls this last step the demonstration. But okay, so that still kind of fits into my brain here. And so we think of it, the thought or the idea, we place it into the law, and then it is demonstrated, the lower level, according to our belief. We have the thought, we nourish it, and it is demonstrated. So I thought this relates a little bit to business or project management, if you want to call it that, or leadership. The leader has a vision, or the project plan, or whatever the plan for the business, and then it's the leader's job to get the staff to buy into it. Because if your staff doesn't buy into it, it's not going to happen, right? And so they've got to get in there, they've got to get excited about it, they've got to energize it. So once your vision is placed in the hands of the competent staff, then it can be manifest. Or the product comes out the door, or whatever it is, the project is completed. So in the spiritual paradigm here, I'd say the competent staff is what we call the law. We have the idea, we place it into the law, and then it is demonstrated. Because we know the law always says yes. No matter how large or how small the idea, the law says yes. No matter how good or bad the idea is, sorry to use those words, no judgment intended, but the law says yes. I'll manifest it. I'll demonstrate it. If manifest might be a little strong of a word. So here's where I talk about choosing your thinking. It also means that we can choose how we perceive things, we can choose our belief system, and we can choose what paradigm we want to apply. As an example, something horrendous happens to you. It's a real experience, for sure to you. I mean, there may have been physical repercussions of it and so forth, and it clearly had an impact on you. And that experience might determine the trajectory for the rest of your life. So if you fix on the negative side of that event, you could live the rest of your life in the victim mode. We know that it's not as important what happened to you, but what you do what happened to you, and what you do now about what happened to you. And you get to choose. So I happen to be reading this book, the same book, right? That talks about victimhood. I wanted to read that for us. It says, believing we are victims sets the stage for us to see value in anger and attack thoughts and to feel that love has forsaken us. At any moment, we can choose not to be a victim. We do this by realizing that while we falsely seem to believe that we were the victims of others and other circumstances in the past, at this moment it is no longer happening. What is actually affecting us now is how we look at and think about these past situations. Our current distress has to do with our attitudes about the past. While we may not have had control over what happened before, we have control over our minds at this moment. Thus, we have the ability to heal them, thereby giving up our present role as victim. All healing takes place in the present, not the past or the future. When we choose to let go of the painful past, only love remains. So, first of all, it has to occur to you to choose something different. If we're operating blindly in our life and something happens, we can do that. But we've been studying this philosophy and so forth long enough that we realize that we have a choice in the matter. So we do. So we're going to go down the path of choosing not to be a victim. So we can either take a different perspective or what have you, and then we can go through this feeling or emotional activation process, which we get to the third stage, which is the demonstration of a different outlook. I was thinking about this past, present, and now type of thing, and when my children were little, I remember having the realization at one point that to them, there was now, there was yesterday, and there was tomorrow. And to try to delve into the details of that at the time was impossible. Yesterday might have been Saturday, the day before today, or it might have been last Wednesday, or it could have been last weekend. And tomorrow was sometime, either tomorrow as we think of tomorrow, or it could be next week, or it could be next month, or it could be the next school year. Now, of course, they grew out of that, so to speak. But I remember making that realization for myself that they really only have three definition of time: past, present, and future. For us, how does that apply? There are things that may have happened 20 or 30 years for us. But, if we're like Gollum with the ring, my precious, that's as real to us as yesterday or 5 minutes ago. We get to choose how we want to focus on that. Quimby, who was a healer in the mid-1800s, also thought of as the father of New Thought in America, he healed on the order of 50,000 people in his practice. And he said that, paraphrasing now, all disease is the result of wrong thinking. And I would say misthinking or misunderstanding of what was going on. So his process was to discuss with the patient what was going on and discover the root cause of their illness. Well, he discovered that by understanding or finding out through the process of interrogation what the root misthinking or wrong thinking was at that time. And then he would explain to them, help them understand, again, not a word of judgment, but the correct thinking, how to see this, if nothing else, to see in a different way. I'm sure that was part of it. And many of these healings were actual physical healings, not just, oh, I feel a little better about myself today. There was piles of crutches and wheelchairs and canes left at his office by people who walked out of there no longer needing this physical assistance. It's kind of similar to some of the healings we read about in the Bible that Jesus performed. Yeah. It always kind of bugs me that we've gotten away from that belief acceptance. We know, and again, it's not being critical, but it's really the medical model that we've all bought into. It's like the only way you can cure this is by a pill or something like that. But Quimby showed that change your thinking and you change your body and change your life. But we're also learning, and some of the things we've been listening to on Thursday nights, and I think some of you have read this other places, through meditation you can actually change your DNA. So there's hope for us. We're coming back around to realizing that we have control over our body. So let's talk a little bit about relationships and how we might apply this change your thinking, change your life. Choose your thinking. Frequently we're bothered by another one because we think, again, this victim thing, they're somehow mistreating us, some way, some fashion. And we probably all have examples or incidents that we've heard of or have occurred to us where we've changed our perspective and the situation then changed. So I'm reminded of a story that Geneva used to tell about. One year she was a teacher, and one year they had a really horrible principal. I don't know if you'd go so far as to say it was the principal from hell, but perhaps. And teachers were just, it's not like they hated him, but he seemed to hate them, And so they decided to, shall we say, get together and extend love to this principal. And so whenever they thought of him, whenever they spoke of him, they used loving terms and so forth. And by the end of the semester, this fellow was an entirely different person. That this application of love had changed him. And I started thinking about that and about some other things that fit in here. And I thought, perhaps the inflection point on that was a feeling of compassion for this other fellow. If they had projected hate to him, then probably no change would have happened. He would have continued to feel attacked or insecure or whatever those things are, but he wouldn't have changed. Somehow, that group of students came to the point of feeling compassion or love for him in some way or another. And initially, it may have just been mouthing the words, as we kind of say, fake it till you make it, But eventually, it likely turned into a real sense of compassion. So many of us, I'll say, have our favorite way of getting to that space of compassion. And I know we have a lot of folks in our community that really like animals. And many times you may have difficulty feeling compassion for a human being, but it's hard not to feel compassionate for your cat or your dog or your horse, something like that. Or your turtle, even. So if you have trouble getting into that compassionate mind frame about a human, start with your critter. Start with the way that you get into that space, and then just kind of slide it on over just a little bit. It may take more than once or twice, but you can feel compassion. It's just in a specific instant, It's hard to choose to feel it for that person. Anyway, and you know the age-old example about the person who cuts you off in traffic. Chances are they weren't intentionally trying to be a jerk. So why not make up a story about why they were speeding or driving erratically or whatever? And you know, maybe they were trying to get up to the hospital, you know, and you can, they're going to have a baby, or they knew somebody was going to have a baby, or somebody was in an accident, they'd just gotten word. I mean, come on, we've all been oblivious. So what does happen when we choose to have a different perspective on what's going on? And all those examples that I used, didn't it bring forth a sense of compassion for that other person? It's like, oh my gosh, I realize, you know, it makes sense. I understand. So then it's very easy for us to forgive that behavior, and we're no longer angry. It's almost as if some part of us feels a sense of oneness with the other person, and then it creates an entirely different outcome for us. And if it hadn't or doesn't occur to you to change the way you think about this, you could spend the rest of your day upset. You know, you get to work and, oh, you would not believe it. When I was driving in here, I was going the speed limit, and this person, you know, you can really get into it. You can spend the rest of your day being upset. Or you can choose differently. You can forget it. Extend love and compassion to that person no matter what they were going through. Even if they were just being a jerk, it doesn't matter. What's important is like Shirley was reading about forgiveness. We think we're forgiving the other person, but what we're really doing is forgiving ourselves. So I don't know if you thought of that as change your thinking, change your life. But this is a case where you've changed your life by changing your perspective. Wayne Dyer has written a book called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem. And the prayer of St. Francis, and I mentioned this the last time I spoke, where there's hatred, let me sow love. He says the source of hatred is the misbelief that we are separate from God. Everything less than love is a misbelief that we are separate from God. How about fear? All right, so how does that fit in? Well, if you're separate from God, you no longer feel the protection of God, if we want to use that word. So you're a little bit on edge. I think there's a verse from the Bible, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Well, if you believe you're one with God, then there's no fear. Contrast that to misbelieving that you're separate from God, then you have fear. And also Dyer says the root of all hatred is a result of fear. I like the idea of calling it a misbelief. That puts it in a different category than a false belief, right? Or a wrong belief. It's a misbelief. The false or wrong, it has the connotation that somehow we've made a mistake or we should feel bad about it or whatever. I totally got lost. That's okay. So anyway, the thought of fear or hatred does create a misreality, if you want to call it that. But once we get to the core misbelief, we can then remedy that to a true belief, true reality, that we are one with God, and then we can bring that through the feeling or subjective level and then demonstrate what that means in our life. Kind of like we were talking about the 3 parts of the chart. You know, we sort of teach one of the directions of that. We say our thoughts are demonstrated in our reality. And Sam used to say, today is yesterday's newspaper. Or you might say, what you see is what you were. Right? So turn it around and use this as a process to diagnose ourselves by looking at the result. So, if we find hate within ourselves, it's likely due to our misbelief in separation. We know that what we see in others is likely really what we have in ourselves. When you see judgment in others, it implies that you're judging, or that there's a judgment of yourself. That's usually what we're dealing with. So we go to the root of that judgment, which could very well be this misbelief that we're separate from the oneness, and then build it back up and demonstrate, or build it whichever way, start with the seed, feed it, demonstrate it. So, and I also want to say that no matter what you do, try to look at it from a perspective of gratitude. How about, thank you, my soul, for bringing this forth at this time. And I know I am ready and able to resolve it. If we believe we live in this friendly, supportive universe, it's not like, sort of the joke or the story about Job, where God's like, yeah, Job, there's just something about you that ticks me off. There is no wrathful God that is there saying, okay, I'm going to really stick it to Edward this time. No. It's entirely different. We have to come from that perspective that there's nothing bad. We might dislike something about ourselves and are ashamed by it. I wish I hadn't done it. It's so bad. But really the purpose of life is to bring to our attention those parts of ourselves which are less than, I'll call it, perfection expressing, or a misrepresentation of who we are at our core. In a sense, it's truly a gift to be shown our dark side or our faults or our failings. Michelangelo was said to have stated that when they were asking him how he could sculpt such a beautiful sculpture, he said, the sculpture is already complete within the marble block. Before I start my work, it is already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material. So I say our purpose here on earth is to remove the superfluous to our true nature. Eliminate the dross by going to the root of it, changing the perception, choosing a different thought, or choosing to release the misbelief, and then allowing the new expression of us to come forth. It sounds easy, and there are any number of techniques out there that can be applied. Some we've heard of, some we haven't. But we know and we affirm that we are attracting and being attracted to that technique that works for us. It may be found in a book, with a particular teacher, or just in our own moments of contemplation. For me, I can't emphasize enough that the awareness of our stuff is such a gift that life brings to us. And I've used the windshield analogy in the past. It's just, life is just pointing out to us those spots on our windshield that are keeping our light from shining brightly to the world. We know at our deepest level that we're truly shining brightly. It's just that there's so much gunk between us, between me and you, and that could be any me and any you, that it doesn't look that clear. And getting rid of that gunk isn't something that someone told us or tells us that we have to do. It's something that's so ingrained in our essence that we have to do it. It is impossible to not do it. Anything that helps us get the gunk out of the way of our magnificence is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. And, my beloveds, magnificent light is what you truly are. You are so precious. So cherished. So loved. Everything else is just misbeliefs. And so it is. Yeah. Let me take some water, then we'll do affirmative prayer. So let's just feel into that energy and that love of the oneness. There is no space between us and spirit. As a matter of fact, as Anna once said, I am in God's tummy and God is in my tummy. God is in my body. God is between the atoms in my cells, in my body. I am enveloped in God, Godness, Spirit. That love and joy and peace of the divine is all around me. And I just open myself to allow it to penetrate through all of my misperceptions, my misbeliefs. So in my quiet times, I know that I can always touch back into that energy, into that deep sense of being loved and supported and cherished. And we know that this is true for everyone as well as ourselves. And we have folks on our prayer list, folks in our community that are struggling with what may seem to them to be insurmountable. But we know that in the midst of all that, God is there. In the midst of that, God is mighty. So we hold this space for ourselves, and then we let it extend through that process of communion and community and energy sharing and accepting, acknowledging and knowing the oneness. We extend that out to all of our friends and family, and as I said, those on our prayer list. And we let it extend out to the larger community. Las Cruces and of New Mexico and the United States of America and to the world. We know that as we touch into that magnificence that we truly are, we make it easier for others to touch into that as well. And as they realize how magnificent they are, they're more easily able to choose a different way of thinking, a different paradigm for life. And we know that even a little change can make a huge difference in our world. And so it is. Oh. Now we have some more music. Thank you again.
Thank you for that wonderful message. I think choose your thinking feels so much more gentle to me than change your thinking. That's really going to stay with me. Thank you. And welcome all the folks in Zoomland, because truly you are in this space with us. This is a medley of 3 songs. The first one by Lanny Wolfe, the second by Daniel Iverson, using the words from Acts 11, and the third is an Irish blessing set to music by Mike Miloso and Dolan Ellis. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Melt me, mold me, fill me, renew me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. May the road rise up to meet you, and the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and clear away the path. May the rain fall softly on your fields until we meet again. May the good Lord always hold you in the palm of her hand. Thank you.
Well, now it's time for our offering. Don't need it, yeah. Judy, thank you for bringing that forward. And I guess you went past somebody in the back too soon, so we'll wait. Oh, we didn't. Never mind. Just getting your exercise.
That's right.
Oh, thank you, Judy. We just bless these offerings that we've received here today, and we know that there are other offerings that are sent to us through the mail and PayPal, off our website and so forth. We just bless the givers, knowing that they have accepted and demonstrated for themselves the flow of the bounty and abundance of the Mother, Father, God. So we just give thanks for this, and we know that this supports our community, our facility here at the church, and also we tithe from this to the greater community. So we give thanks for these offerings. We know that they are multiplied as they are blessed, and so it is. Thank you, Judy. Well, let's see. I think coming up we have, what do we have up here? Yes, thank you for those. And we also appreciate those who have helped put on today, our technical help, camera and Zoom person, our PA, our musicians, and Barry as well. So thank you all. And now let's stand and we will recite our benediction, and then we'll have our peace song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.